Chiney Ogwumike checked Stephen A. Smith for implying he made her, Molly, and Monica McNutt. Before we get off into today's podcast, you come across the show, do me a favor. Please hit the subscribe button, post your comments, share the video out, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Importantly, make sure you got your post notifications on so you know every time Simply Ball drops another hot banger. And if this is your first time coming across my YouTube channel, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, post your comments, share the video out, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. I see everybody in the comments section, #salute, and you know what my mantra is. Tell a friend to tell a friend. It might not be for you, but it might be for them. Well, Chiney Ogwumike has spoke. After the back and forth between Monica McNutt and Stephen A. Smith, Stephen A. Smith went to his show, Stephen A. Smith Show, after First Take aired yesterday. But before we get off into today's podcast is sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek, the official sponsor of Simply Ball Dropping Podcast, the #1 rated ticketing app, over 28 million downloads, 70,000 plus events from concerts to sports, all your tickets across the web, all in one place, rated 1 to 10. Green means good, red means bad, and all backed by your buyers guaranteed. And remember, use my promo code Simply Ball Dropping at checkout to get $20 off your purchase. And just know, by using my promo code Simply Ball Dropping at checkout, you're getting $20 off your purchase. Also know that you're supporting the Simply Ball Dropping podcast. Well, let's get off into it. Well, Stephen A. Smith is at it again. So what happened yesterday on First Take? Monica McNutt and Stephen A. Smith get into a heated debate about the WNBA and Caitlin Clark. Now, what Stephen A. Smith did after the First Take aired, he went on to the Stephen A. Smith Show and he voiced his displeasures and always make it seem that he is a victim. So what did Stephen A. Smith do? So he started rambling off some females' names, talking about these females wouldn't be nothing if it wasn't for him, Stephen A. Smith. So what that caused was for some of the women that he mentioned, for some of the women to clap back at him. Now, Jemele Hill made a statement saying that she'd been on First Take way before it was First Take, when it was Cold Pizza. And then when Stephen A. took over as a co-host, she was on there 2 times every other week. And then he made it seem like Chiney Ogwumike, she wouldn't be known if she wasn't on First Take and if it wasn't for him. But you all know Chiney Ogwumike, she plays ball. So she got her name through playing ball. But she's an excellent analyst for ESPN. She does a great job on NBA Today. As a female, she brings the heat and she knows what she's talking about. And then he goes on to the likes and saying that, Monica McNutt would be nothing without Stephen A. Smith. Also, he made reference to Molly Karam. So Stephen A. Smith has some choice words to say on his show, and some females, they stepped out. Like I said, Jemele Hill made a statement. Also, Carrie Champion made a statement too, because she used to be a former moderator for First Take. But I want y'all to take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith said after Monica McNutt really max ethered him live on First Take yesterday morning. So let's take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith said, and then let's listen to the silent clapback that Chiney Ogwumike stated after Stephen A. makes his little soliloquy. So guys, I want y'all to pay attention and take a listen.
You ever heard of Monica McNutt? You have now, because she's on First Take a lot. Chiney Ogwumike, absolutely wonderful, spectacular basketball analyst, etc., WNBA player in her own right. Ask her how it's been to be on First Take. How about Andrea Carter, who's a rising star in this business? How much do you think First Take helped that? What about Kimberly Martin?
Stephen A. throwing that power around.
What about Molly Qerim herself? Now, I have sat back for years and taken a lot of shit from people.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Monty. And I think a lot of conversation has also spilled over to why we, Monica and I, and so many women, Molly included, have seats at the table. And when you occupy a space that is not necessarily built for us, Monty does a fantastic job with the New York Knicks. I'm covering NBA Countdown. You need allies. And there are a lot of people that contribute to our success in these spaces. Stephen A, Shannon, Stephen A, you've brought me on First Take for a long time, since before people knew my name. Shannon, you brought Monty on yesterday to continue the conversation. I think that's fascinating. But when it comes to who made us, who made me, Monica, Molly, I mean, this is me personally. I'm made by God. I'm made by Peter and Chiney Ogwumike, and by our hard work and ethic, and also our perspective. And we are products of a game that has transformed our lives, but we are also witnessing the intersection of. I think it's very important that we continue to lean into the voices that not only have lived the game, but understand it and can advocate it, but also keep it real. And I think yesterday what the world witnessed was keeping it real, but also keeping it together today, because we're all here.
Now, that was the perfect professional clapback I've ever seen. Basically, what she stated was, Stephen A, you didn't make me. I was made by God. She gave Stephen A and Shannon kudos for bringing her on First Take way before anybody knew her name. But what Stephen A Smith always does, and I've covered this for the longest, and you can go back and look at some of the podcasts I've covered on Stephen A. What Stephen A does, he always wants to big somebody up to tear them down. So basically what happened was when Monica McNutt actually spoke out against Stephen A Smith, talking about you could have been covering the WNBA 3 years ago with the power that you got. And Stephen A always insinuated that he's the content creator for ESPN First Take. He chooses the topics to talk about. And what Monica was basically saying is, you had this platform 3 years ago. You could have been talking about the WNBA, and you know what Stephen A Smith said. What have I been doing? We the most talked, on First Take. We cover the WNBA. So Monica McNutt was trying to make a point, and Stephen A tried to get beside himself. So Monica McNutt had to put him in his place. But I've always told y'all, Stephen A Smith always has to big you up to bring you down. And Chiney Ogwumike was not going for that. She silently, professionally max ethered Stephen A. She gave Stephen A his props, but she said, you didn't make me. I was made by God. So kudos to her. And this is the fallout because of what Monica McNutt did. And then Stephen A had to go on his show and incorporate all these ladies in there. But there's more ladies coming out, ganging up on Stephen A Smith because of his choice of words. And I told y'all, Stephen A Smith, keep an eye on Stephen A Smith, man. And when Carrie Champion used the word, when they talking about Caitlin Clark, the jealousy, she don't like Stephen A Smith using that word jealousy. And we got to keep an eye on this, because if there's any jealousy, I think it's going to start between him and Shannon Sharpe, because Shannon Sharpe is doing big things. Like I said on the previous podcast, Shannon Sharpe was the one that got Monica McNutt on Nightcap with him and Ocho. Why come Stephen A Smith didn't invite Monica McNutt to his show to get a better understanding, to give her at least 15 to 30 minutes to explain herself? Because on First Take, like Molly said, she had to interject because everybody was talking over everybody and they was in different studios. So guys, keep an eye on this. This is getting interesting because more women are coming out and voicing their displeasures of Stephen A Smith, because Stephen A Smith is basically throwing his power around, talking about he's the one that's, making all these women. And he's the one that's giving these women all these opportunities. In a sense, he's putting them on First Take. But in another sense, these women already have a name for themselves because they play the sport. Like I said, Monica McNutt, out of Stephen A Smith and Shannon Sharpe, she probably is the most qualified to talk about basketball, NBA side and the WNBA side. And the same thing with Chiney Ogwumike. She is the most qualified to talk about the WNBA in the NBA. So guys, let me know what y'all think down in the comment section. This is getting very interesting. I would love to hear from you. And that's going to wrap up another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K. Sapp. We're going to catch you on the next one. And remember, on your way out the door, make sure you give the video a thumbs up.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share on all major platforms.